My name is Carlin Borisenko, and you're listening to the Actively Unwoke podcast. You can find full archives of the podcast over on my Substack, Carlin, Karlyn.substack.com. Just click on the podcast link in the upper menu, and that will take you to the full archive. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever works for you. And if you appreciate what I'm doing, please consider supporting my work on Substack. $8 a month, $80 a year. You guys keep me in business, and I really, really appreciate it. So I want to talk about censorship. I want to talk about a crackdown on free speech. And this time, it's not coming from the left. Well, not directly anyway. It's coming from the so-called right. The so-called anti-woke right. In the form of Elon Musk and Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I will never call it X. It will always be Twitter to me. I've been on Twitter since Twitter started. You know, sometimes an old dog really can't learn new tricks. When you've been on something for so long, you're not going to change the name to a stupid letter. Anyway, regardless of whether it's called X or Twitter or what have you, the fact of the matter is Elon Musk, who promised us a free speech platform, who promised us that we weren't going to see any more permanent bans or suspensions or any of these things just from someone speaking their mind unless what they had to say was illegal. Well, it kind of seems as though he has taken that back. And isn't that convenient? Isn't it convenient that as soon as the election season is over, all of a sudden, Twitter is no longer a free speech platform? Now, listen, when I first got involved in the so-called anti-woke movement, which is kind of a joke at this point, like the anti-woke movement is kind of dead. It's been dead for several years now. If you want more information about that, go listen to my last podcast. But I'll give you a too long didn't read on my backstory in case you didn't listen. When I first got involved in the so-called anti-woke movement back in 2019, 2020, it was because people were being attacked for their speech. And I don't like that. I'm very old school when it comes to free speech. I really idolized growing up the ACLU because the ACLU used to defend the speech of the worst people imaginable. They would defend the speech of the KKK. They would defend the speech of neo-Nazis. They would defend the speech of the Westboro Baptist Church. They would defend awful, almost irredeemable speech. Because when you protect the worst possible speech, that's when you protect speech for everyone. Because the only speech that really needs to be protected is speech that people find offensive. If no one finds your speech offensive, then you don't need it to be protected. So when you protect offensive speech that makes people angry, speech that triggers people, makes their blood boil, when you defend that speech and say that speech has a right to exist in the public square, that's when you defend speech for everyone. Well, in the last week or so, an interesting thing's been happening over on Twitter, in that Elon Musk seems to be permanently banning and severely reprimanding accounts that go against him politically. He has mass banned a group of Groyper accounts. If you don't know who the Groypers are, they are followers of Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, I know, is a controversial figure. I know many of you listening probably don't like Nick Fuentes. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've been hanging around with Nick Fuentes and the Groypers for about a year and a half now, and I've never found Nick to be hateful. I've never found him to be demeaning of other people. He certainly does make jokes, and he makes overtly offensive jokes sometimes that piss people off, and that's part of the point of it, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is whether or not you like Nick Fuentes and whether or not you like his followers, should we be censoring their speech, and should we be mass banning 15 of them off of the platform for disagreeing with Elon Musk? I don't think so. In recent days, Elon Musk has pulled the blue checks of very prominent accounts who are speaking out against Israel and who are commenting on Jewish power. Now, again, you might find this speech personally offensive, and Lord knows, I don't agree with a lot of the things these accounts say. Some of the accounts that have had their blue checks pulled, including Official 1984, including Dr. Lupus, including Jake Shields, including Myron Gaines, including Stu Peters. There are probably some other ones that I'm missing as well. There are some of these accounts that I really do not like the people involved. I cannot stand Myron Gaines of the Fresh and Fit podcast. There is nothing redeemable that Myron Gaines brings to the table for me. I can't stand Stu Peters. I think Stu Peters is actually a hateful person. I think Stu Peters is actually a very toxic person. There are others on that list that I don't mind. I don't mind Dr. Lupus. I think Dr. Lupus is a sweet lady. I like Jake Shields. I think Jake Shields is a really nice guy. I love the Official 1984 because he is like one of my free speech icons, and he says really offensive things sometimes. But again, it's the offensive speech that we need to protect because that protects speech for everyone. And I haven't found any of those people to ever be mean, nasty people. I've never found them to be hateful. They're speaking their mind on topics that are controversial, that's for sure. But should they have their blue checks pulled on Twitter for that when they've paid for those? That's another aspect of this. These are people who have paid money to have a premium account on this platform that are now having their ability to have their premium account and all the features that go with it just completely removed because Elon Musk doesn't like what they're saying. This reminds me so much of Twitter 1.0, where you didn't know if you were going to get banned for saying something that offended the boss. Remember, I got permanently banned on Twitter 1.0 for a full month because I posted an email address to help parents report schools to the state of New Hampshire who were breaking anti-CRT laws. The email address I posted was publicly available. It was a government email address. I was allowed to post it, and Twitter didn't like that you were fighting back against CRT at that time, and so I got my account permanently banned for helping parents to report schools to the state that were breaking anti-CRT laws by teaching that to their kids. If the standard of free speech that we're going to go with is free speech that makes people feel comfortable, free speech that tech oligarchs agree with, free speech that supports a political narrative, that doesn't really sound like free speech to me. And I think that this is an issue that more people need to be paying attention to because we're in a situation now where Twitter and Elon Musk are downright lying about what's happening. And the whole thing, for me, feels very 1984. I'm going to give you an example of why I say this is very, very, very 1984. So yesterday on the platform, yesterday being what even day is it? Oh, I don't know. It's December 2nd today. So this was December 2nd. Oh my gosh, I went back a whole month. It is January 2nd. We are in 2025, folks. How crazy is that? On January 1st, on New Year's Day, Elon Musk decides to come out against Nick Fuentes. And again, I'm not suggesting that you have to like Nick Fuentes. I'm not suggesting you have to watch Nick Fuentes, although I would argue that if you actually just watched one of Nick Fuentes' shows and ignored clips that are taken out of context, you might find that he's not the person that you think he is, because Nick Fuentes has been smeared wildly in the public sphere. And I say that as someone, I know this is a little bit of a sidetrack. I say to someone, Nick Fuentes and I did not always get along. There was a time where Nick Fuentes and I were sniping back and forth at each other. Nick sent his followers after me. Nick sent the Groypers after me on more than one occasion in the time that we have known who each other was. I've sniped back at him. I've said mean and unkind things towards him. And then, about a year and a half ago, we kind of looked at each other in a little bit of a different light when we, at least for me, I realized how much Nick Fuentes had been smeared, and I think he started to look at me in a different light too, because I started not being aggressive towards him, and then he started, seeing me differently too. It's funny how that works, isn't it? It's funny how when you have people that have kind of been through the same ringer in terms of being the enemies of the conservative establishment or the so-called anti-woke establishment, all of a sudden you find out that the people that they're going after are maybe not the bad guy after all. And that's absolutely what I found with Nick Fuentes. And I encourage everyone to Ignore the narrative that you hear about these people and just go listen to them directly. Go listen to what he says directly for himself. People try to tell me all the time that Nick Fuentes hates women. They don't understand why I hang around him, and the groypers say, Carlin, he hates you. He wants to burn you alive, because I'm not a Christian or a Catholic. He wants to burn you as a witch, Carlin. I say, well, I don't actually think that's true. Nick Fuentes has never been anything but kind to me. That's the honest. Well, in the last year and a half, he hasn't been. Like before that, we kind of wiped the slate clean before that. But my point is this. Nick Fuentes is hugely influential right now. He's hugely relevant in the political scene. He has almost 500,000 followers on Twitter. He has grown exponentially since he got his account restored. He has tens of thousands of people who watch him live every single night. He has hundreds of thousands of views on every single one of his shows. He is relevant in the political discussion, whether you like him or not. He is not allowed to get a blue check mark on Twitter, which means his account is automatically deboosted. He doesn't have access to the features that everyone else has access to. You might think that that's fair, but the reason for that restriction is that Elon Musk doesn't like him. It's the same restriction that Jake Shields has now, or that Dr. Lupus has now, or that Sam Parker has now. He's the one I left off the list earlier. He got his blue check removed yesterday, or Official 1984, or all these other people. They don't have access to the features that everyone else has access to, which means their accounts are fundamentally deboosted, and they're not allowed to post long-form content on the platform just because Elon Musk disagrees with them. And the reason, let's go back to me talking about this getting a little bit 1984. The reason I say this is getting a little bit 1984 is now not only is Elon Musk suppressing the speech of people that he doesn't like, he's also rewriting history. The reason I say that is yesterday there was a little interaction between Nick Fuentes and Elon Musk in which Elon Musk was responding to the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee. Essentially, Nick Fuentes, after 15 Groyper accounts got banned on the platform for disagreeing with Elon Musk, and there is no evidence that they broke any terms of service. They didn't break any laws. And I got to tell you guys, I was actually involved. I was in a Groyper Twitter space when the banning happened, and I know the people involved. They weren't doing anything. Again, you might not like them. You might not like what they have to say, but they weren't doing anything that was wrong. They were just talking and joking and weren't even really saying anything offensive when the ban came down. So Nick tweeted, "Twitter censorship is back. Free speech is dead." That tweet got 1.6 million views, probably many more than that now. Seth Dillon posted that. He is with the Babylon Bee. He says 1.6 million views isn't censorship. Elon Musk responds to that and said, claiming censorship while simultaneously getting millions of views is the clearest possible evidence that Fuentes has shit for brains. Well, he used the little emoji for shit, but the message was very, very clear. And then Nick responded, and he said to Elon Musk, when you declared war against opponents of H-1B, that's the immigration program that Elon Musk uses to staff Tesla, and probably many of his other companies too, with Indian immigrants that are replacing Americans, and you can have feelings about immigration all you like, but Nick is allowed to have an opinion on this. Anyway, Nick says, when you declared war against opponents of H-1B, did that include banning and unverifying ex-users who disagree with you? That seems to be the perception after waves of suspensions and de-verifications this week. Even the appearance of retaliation chills speech. And so when Nick responded to Elon Musk, Nick won. Nick won overwhelmingly. And when I say Nick won, what I mean is Nick's response to Elon Musk got 3 times the likes that Elon Musk's initial response has. Again, Nick has an account with 500,000 followers, which is not too bad, but Elon Musk has 200 million followers. Nick's tweet got 3 times the likes that Elon Musk did, and I think he got like double the retweets too. So overwhelmingly, the community sided with Nick Fuentes over Elon Musk on the censorship issue. And I think that that's true. I think that there were a lot of people in there that, again, don't like Nick Fuentes, don't necessarily agree with him, but still took his side over Elon Musk, because the issue is not whether or not you like Nick Fuentes and whether or not you're best friends. The issue is censorship. The issue is arbitrary censorship based on the wings of a tech oligarch. That is the issue. And even if you do not like Nick Fuentes, a lot of people can agree that the issue of censorship is more important, because if they can do something to Nick Fuentes, they can do it to you. If they can do something to Nick Fuentes' followers, they can do it to you. If they can take blue checks away arbitrarily from accounts they don't like, they can do that to you too. This is why we have to stand up for speech that we disagree with, even if we find it abhorrent, even if it boils our blood, even if it makes us so angry and triggered. You still have to stand up for it, because when you protect speech for other people, you protect it for yourself. And this is the basis of the problem of why the anti-woke movement got started in the flipping first place. Now, a whole lot of people are sticking up for Nick Fuentes, but a whole lot of people are also quiet. And it's those people that I look at, the quiet ones, the ones that are not speaking up against Elon Musk and what he's doing right now. And I say, have you no decency, sir? To pull a line from the McCarthy era. So people overwhelmingly sided with Nick, and they ratioed the high heaven out of Elon Musk. And then it got even better, because then Elon Musk got community noted. And what that means is the community voted to put a notation on Elon Musk's tweet, kind of giving him a little bit of a reprimand. So again, Elon Musk said, claiming censorship while simultaneously getting millions of views is the clearest possible evidence that Nick Fuentes has shit for brains. And the community note that was placed on his tweet last night said, Nick Fuentes is referring to multiple Groyper affiliated accounts systematically suspended over the previous week. These accounts can no longer post on X, and all previous content has been hidden, which constitutes censorship. Now, I'll tell you this. Elon Musk, when he reinstated Nick Fuentes' account to Twitter because Nick had never broken any laws, and Musk's commitment was, if you haven't broken any laws, then you can have a Twitter account. When he reinstated Nick's account, he said, let the community notes bury him. Well, the community notes haven't really been a problem for Nick. He's actually been very, very measured about what he's posted on Twitter since he got his account back. But now the community notes have buried Elon Musk on his own platform. And so how did Elon Musk respond to that? He rewrote history and had the community note removed. And it was a little funny the way this happened. I was actually awake last night around 3:30 a.m., or I guess that would be this morning, wouldn't it? As of this recording. I was awake when this happened around 3:30 in the morning, where all of a sudden the community note that had been placed on Elon Musk's tweet that had already received more than enough votes. It was already live on the platform. It had received the votes required to be added to the tweet. All of a sudden, the community note went away. And I don't buy the idea that an overwhelming amount of people decided to vote in the opposite direction on the community note at 3:30 in the morning. I think we've got a tech oligarch in the form of Elon Musk that wants to be able to ban and censor whoever he wants, and he doesn't want to be held accountable for his actions at all. I want to remind you of this quote from 1984, which is always a great reference manual when we're talking about dystopian things. Where have we heard this before? This is from 1984. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Well, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk is the party. Elon Musk is the oligarch. Elon Musk is the guy literally living at Mar-a-Lago. Did you know this? He has a cottage at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump where he is literally living. And he's making decisions about who has the right to free speech on his platform and who does not, based on who he politically disagrees with. And some might argue, well, it's a private platform. He can do what he wants. It's not the government, so it's not infringing on free speech. Yeah, maybe, except that Elon Musk promised us this was going to be the town square, except Elon Musk promised us this was going to be a place for dissident voices. He promised us this was going to be the free speech platform, and he is going back on his promise, and now Twitter is exactly in the same place as it was when Elon Musk bought it in the first place. a place where you're only allowed to shill the approved political narrative. And we need to be honest about this, because whether we like it or not, this is a hugely influential platform in the world. And if you are not allowed to have free speech on this platform, then you are being barred from participating in the town square. You know, there was a time I didn't take Twitter seriously. I refused to take Twitter seriously. And, you know, maybe I made some mistakes in that regard, because I didn't want to believe that this one platform was the answer to everything. And I still don't think it's the answer to everything. I think we need to be organizing offline far more than we do on Twitter. But the fact of the matter is in terms of influencing public discussion, in terms of influencing decision makers, policymakers, lawmakers at all levels, local, state, and federal, the man who owns the platform is currently living on the property of the president-elect of the United States. He gets to decide what voices are heard by millions and millions of people and what voices are not, and it is not a level playing field, and people need to be honest about this. We need to be honest about what we're dealing with. So is this woke in the sense that the woke left was censoring and canceling people that disagreed with them? Is it woke in that the old regime at Twitter was very, very woke? It's exactly the same flipping thing. Remember, Elon Musk is not a Republican. He's not a conservative. Elon Musk only showed up for Donald Trump like 3 months ago. And Elon Musk doesn't even understand the conservative base. He was so caught off guard on this H-1B visa issue when the conservative base backlashed against him and said, no, Elon, we don't want you importing Indian immigrants into the United States to take our jobs. Which is exactly what he's doing, by the way. All of this is because Elon Musk will lose millions and millions and millions of dollars if he has to hire American workers over importing Indian immigrants. That's just fact, guys. Elon Musk wants to talk about how this is only about importing the top 0.1%, the best and the brightest. That's not what it is. There are other visa programs for that he can use if he wants to import the top 1.1%. This is about importing workers that are taking jobs that are perfectly capable of being done by Americans. Americans have the skill set. We have the staffing pool for it. Elon Musk doesn't want to hire Americans because Americans are more expensive. And he's using his platform to censor voices that are pushing a narrative that is counter to what he wants politically, that is counter to what is going to make him money. And we need to be honest about this. This is a very leftist thing to do, to censor voices you disagree with because they're not following the narrative that you want them to follow. And so people need to be aware of this, and you need to be paying attention, because if you think that this is going to stop with a few inconvenient accounts that are saying really offensive things, maybe even things that hurt your sensibilities, maybe even things that make you angry. But just remember, if they can do it to them, they can do it to you too. Censorship of dissident political voices is one of the primary issues that we need to be paying attention to. And it's not just happening on the left. In this case, it's coming from the right. And that's just as relevant as any discussion about far left activism, because quite frankly, a lot of times these discussions get in the way of us defeating the far left. None of us can actually focus on defeating the left because we're too worried about being censored from the right. Because these discussions, these arguments usurp everything. And while they usurp everything, the left is just pushing forward. And I've got a post going up on the Substack today about all the different groups that are going to be protesting the inauguration. And there's going to be a lot of them. And there's everything from progressive and liberal groups all the way to Antifa. That's what we should be focused on. That's where our attention should be. But no, we're talking about censorship on Twitter, except this time the censoring is coming from the MAGA movement, or the head of the MAGA movement, in the form of Elon Musk, because he bought the election with hundreds of millions of dollars. He bought the election, and he bought what he believes is the ability to silence anyone that doesn't go along with his plan. And that's just as terrifying as the radical revolutionary far left. That's just as important as the radical revolutionary far left. So, I'll leave you with that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. I still have an account anyway. I am Dr. Carlin B. That is DrKarlyn, the letter B. And you can find more posts about this on my Twitter. And again, I know I've said this a million times, but I'll say it one more time. You don't have to like Nick Fuentes. You don't have to like the people that are getting their blue checks pulled. You don't have to like what they say. There's some of these people that I do not like, but they should have the ability to speak their mind. And if you don't like them, block them and ignore them. And if enough people block them and ignore them, they go away. But you should defend their ability to say what they want to say, because when you defend their ability to say what they want to say, you are defending your ability to say what you want to say as well. That is how we protect speech and the free exchange of ideas in this country. And that is the only way in which the best ideas really boil up to the top, is an open exchange of good and bad ideas, crazy ideas, offensive ideas. If you don't allow all the ideas out there, then you are allowing the owners of the tech platforms to dictate to you what you believe, which really isn't about truth at all. It's just about what they want for their own personal purposes. Anyway, that's all I've got. I'll see you next time.